Joey and friends here to save the day. Talking about dolls and making our own way. Talking to visionaries, dreamers, and kin. Anyone can play here cause we all fit in. From Darcy to Body, from Dawn to Glimmer, we talk about world as the lights go dimmer. Follow us to a playground filled with stories and let us entertain you with tales of our glories.
Hi, I'm Joey Dollmaker Versaw, and we are here with the great Ion Tallman. Hi!
Hi, hi.
How you
Yay.
doing?
I'm good. I love your channel. I love watching it. I'm so glad you're doing this. You meet a lot of people on the internet, and this is the way I get to really feel like I do know them, you
Yeah,
know?
and
Yeah.
that's a big part of why, and I actually wanted to talk to you about that because of our collaborations and everything. I feel like it was so important. I wanted to have something out there that was a safe space for artists, a space to also be able to introduce people to artists that they've never known about or seen or heard,
Yeah.
and also to show and to table all of our talents that we have, and it doesn't matter whether you're Robert Tonner or Mel Odom or whatever. We're all part of this community, and we all love dolls, and
Yeah.
and so I thought it was so important to be able to have a platform like that.
So it's not just me talking endlessly about Care Bears.
Yeah. Care a lot.
Oh my God.
They're sneaky, even in the
It's a
80s.
it was a trap. It was all a trap. They says all for marketing, and I mean we've talked about Muriel Farion a lot, and she was more invested in the Get Along gang.
Yeah.
And in my brain, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. Because I mean, the Get Along gang was over here, but if you go back and watch it, it's terrifying. I was looking back, I tried to go back and watch them, and I watched this episode about one of them runs away. I want to say I can't think of her name right now. It's the other girl, it's the porcupine girl.
The Porcupine Girl, yeah.
Yeah. So she runs away, and like I think the episode is called, Her Name Meets a Carney. That's the name of the episode. and,
Oh no.
and it's when you watch it, it's just as bad as it sounds. I got stuck on the Snorks more than the Care Bears.
Yeah, I love the Snorks.
I got
Come
stuck.
along with the Snorks.
Every single Care Bear, I was really into it, and I think like the right towards the end, they started introducing Harmony Bear, and she did this rhyming thing all the time. I was insufferable for about 6 months when that happened. My parents were like, he likes puns and he likes rhyming.
Yeah.
My mom was making the Care Bears, and she was making good money off of the Care Bears.
Yeah.
So she's more like you, actually, because I mean, my mom could just plow through Care Bears. She's making Care Bear, Care Bear, Care Bear, and we would go to they had an actual auction, that kind of
Yeah.
auction, and they would sell her Care Bears out, and some of them would go for like $200 in the '80s. That was like holy.
Insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I remember really missing them, but I helped her with every Care Bear. So it was like Friend Bear's flowers being in the right place, or Grumpy Bear. My Grumpy Bear from childhood, I still have, and I wanted him to have green eyes, and he looks psychotic.
Perfect.
I,
Perfect. Yeah,
I just
yeah.
Swift Heart Rabbit, you could say was coded blue, so was male, but Swift Heart Rabbit was voiced female.
Hmm.
So a lot of the Care Bears were non-binary characters,
Yeah.
changing gender like every episode. Friend Bear, I have no idea what gender Friend Bear was supposed to be. She kind of reminds me of Peppermint Patty, from the Peanuts,
Yeah.
the way she would talk, and she was always with Secret Bear, so it was like, I have a
Hmm.
secret, I'm a giant lesbian.
Secret Bear's keeping that secret.
Yeah, and Sweetheart Rabbit, it was like, is he gay? Is he gay? Is it a boy? Is it a girl? And even on some of the back of the packaging, um, yeah, there's not a gender on those bears. I think that was really clever.
That's
I
so
think
funny.
maybe Cheer Bear and Cheer Bear and Grumpy Bear are the only two that haven't changed
Well,
genders.
I don't think they even thought, they didn't even think about that stuff
No.
at that point in time. I mean, you look at the Kenner Strawberry Shortcake line and you look at Plum Pudding, and, they had already had specials with Plum Pudding
Mhm.
as a boy, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden shows back up in town and we're a
Okay,
girl.
so I did trivia for BlytheCon, and I was like, which Strawberry Shortcake character got on the train to the very big city and came back female? That should be like so easy. That should be like
So
the easiest.
easy,
There's
exactly.
only two boys.
I had AI searched when we met, and I was just curious to see what little old Google knows, and
Crazy.
it says Joey Versailles, Mary Magpie in quotations, and Ion Tallman have been collaborating since at least October 2012 when they partnered on a Tuladil and Thistle figure project. They have continued to work together as fellow artists, with recent mentions of them hanging out and collaborating in 2024 and 2025. That is what AI has to say about
That's so
us.
scary. How does it
And
know?
they have a link
Yeah.
to the Tula Dill that was for Designer Con that we did together. They
Yeah.
have a link for that, and then they have a link for Queen of the Doll Isle doll show. But I just was like, wow, it just seemed like a fun thing to do. Let's see what this AI knows about our personal lives. Do they know when we first start talking on the phone? Are they going to tell us that? Like, so I'm
I
guessing we
feel like
met
yeah, I
2010,
feel like if
2011. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I feel like if you don't expressly say I don't want you to do that, it already did it. And it did it
right.
so fast that I mean all this came up on us really fast. I feel like in the last 2 years the whole world has changed because of it.
Drastically, and it's kind of horrifying actually. I mean, there's pros and cons to anything. I just feel like I don't feel like it shouldn't have been released to public, but I feel like we should be more respectful of the usage of it. I feel
Yeah.
like people just use it for their spare time for
Yeah.
fun,
Yeah.
and they don't realize the damage that it's causing. And so I wish that we utilized it in a good way where it's like if we're going to use this energy, we want it to be for something that's going to be substantial at least,
Yeah, we literally sat down and said, "Oh, AI is going to cure cancer, guys. It's going to be gone in a year." In the meantime, everyone's still dying from cancer.
Right, right.
Great. Thanks. Thanks. All I wanted for it to do was replace artists' jobs.
Right. Here we
And
are.
it is hard because you kind of have to, especially, I don't want to say older generations. I want to say every generation kind of has a different approach to this. Some people think it's not that big a deal,
Right.
and some people think it's a really like huge deal. Some people treat it kind of like a photo filter,
Yeah.
and it's not a filter. Filters are really cool things that again a human being developed, but these AI things they're not.
Yeah.
Um, a really good example was Mondo Toys did an Orko masterpiece figure in 1/6 scale. It's a big Orko, and they gave him his face without his hat on. So here I'm sitting there like, okay, wait, was that in the cartoon? Did I miss Orko taking his hat off, or any one of his species taking their hat off? And so I commented, I was like, what episode was this? And I don't remember him. And they actually responded to me and said, it's what we thought Orko looked like.
Wow.
So
Okay.
nobody was consulted. There's not like
So they didn't go speak to a Trollian or anything. They
no,
just, yeah.
no.
Wow.
None of the creators of the show had anything to do with that figure's face. So that was just kind of their take on his
Interesting.
face.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even though that was sculpted by a human being, it was kind of taking that same liberty that AI takes.
Right.
What is, I'm sure if you ask Google, what does Orko's face actually look like? It's now going to come up with the Mondo figure.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, collaboration and everything,
Mm,
I wanted to, and AI and technology. You were such a big part of my being able to evolve as an artist, introducing me so early on with the art of 3D sculpting and printing. It really changed my life, but it also is scary because so when in the old days, you're sculpting this all by hand, using the computer, but you're sculpting this, and these are your original ideas and stuff. And now with AI and with the technology of 3D printing, we're looking at a future where anybody, doesn't matter if they don't have to have any talent at all. They can just walk
Yeah.
up and be like, let's see, we want to mix this and this and this and see what doll we come up with. Hit it, AI and 3D computer, printer or
Yeah.
whatever. And
Yeah.
and then and also could be successful from just, even though they didn't put the years, the work in, the nothing, and
Yeah.
that's the part that kind of terrifies me a bit as an artist. I have to keep on going back to my heart and think like, well, humans are going to always want that human connection and that hands-on of another human, another artist, and
Yeah.
they'll appreciate the maybe imperfectness of
Mhm.
what humans create versus the perfectness that AI can create.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting. I always, I mean, I really struggled with symmetry, especially in sculpting things that I didn't enjoy sculpting
Mhm.
initially. So when you are making a doll or a toy in particular, those arms and legs have to be perfect down to the
Yeah,
millimeter.
yeah,
And if you screw it up and take off 2 millimeters off of a doll leg, good luck putting it back.
right.
Okay. So especially things like really long arms and really long legs, you're changing it, 50, 60 times. And then we would have a traditional blueprint of it. And the computer being able to do just that much for me
Yeah,
was enough for me to say this is probably the right direction. And
right.
when we first started talking about 3D, it was nowhere near where it is now, where you could
Yeah,
actually do it at home.
yeah,
We were working through things like Shapeways,
yeah.
and Shapeways was kind of a guess what you were going to get exactly.
It was
You have these,
horrible. I mean, let's just
yeah,
say it as it is. It was horrible. You
yeah,
you were paying an astronomical, I can't even say the word, astronomical amount of
yeah,
money. I was having a 12-inch fashion doll printed that cost me $110 just to have, and that's not counting shipping,
nope,
just to have Shapeways print the parts out to me for one doll.
yeah,
So it was crazy. And then when you get the print back, is it going to be a nice print, or is it going to be a horrible staircase effect print where it looks
yeah,
like a tree stump, which isn't
yeah,
necessarily not bad, but sometimes it is when you're making a doll. You don't want to look like she was, carved out of a tree. You want her to look
yeah.
smooth and look nice,
And I mean, you would have a 30-day turnaround on that too. And so when you're trying to work with clients,
Yeah.
I with the Oshirena pony, I sculpted that, and I was like, I'm just going to be able to order these and get 10 blanks at a time and
Yeah.
get them out to people. Well, Shapeways promoted a new material, and I was like, oh, they're like, this is much more impact resistant. And I was like, that's great when you're rooting hair,
Yeah.
for something like that, because the ABS can crack.
Mhm.
And so I redid my models and I sent it into Shapeways again, and they sent me back these models that were full of a gel,
Yeah,
and they're
I
like,
had the same thing when I
oh, it's
tried
like
yeah,
impact gel. That's great. That's great if
yeah,
I was making a bumper on a car, but you
yeah,
cannot root through that. And even if you try to drill through it, and I found it actually wasn't much stronger than an egg. In truth, it's very flimsy, and so you and then you just spent $300 getting
yeah,
that many little ponies,
yeah,
and you can't even put them together. So it was kind of trial and error. And when I was talking to you about it, you really ran with it. So for me, it was like I got to figure out how I'm going to model and how I'm going to print and kind of get a regular what is the word for it? a regular process for doing it, you know.
Yeah.
And it wasn't till years later, and I was saving and watching everyone. I was watching what you were printing with. I was looking at the materials and the colors and the complexity, and I was watching how a lot of prototyping was coming from printing, but they
Hmm.
weren't finished pieces. So
Hmm.
you'd have a doll that you'd still have to send to get cast in resin.
Right.
And so for a sculptor, you are sacrificing things to fit that articulation in there already. And some of those companies, they can't make a mold
Yeah.
unless you change this or you change that, which I can't stand.
Yeah.
I don't care if they can make a
I
mold
just am
anymore.
dealing with that
Yeah.
nightmare right now with the factory because I'm doing a 16-inch version of Miss Mary
Oh,
that's jointed and yeah,
yeah.
and I'm excited about it, but
Yeah.
what works for me to
Hmm.
print and string doesn't necessarily work for the factory to make molds of,
Yeah.
and then the horrible part is I'll think that they'll be in production for a month and a half, and then they message me out of the blue and they go, this isn't going to work. And I'm like, why don't you just tell me all at once what's not going to work so I can get it all fixed and get it back to you? Then hopefully the future will be easy because I'll be like, oh, we already have the joints that work for the factory. I know what works for them and I can use that for my next thing or whatever. But it's a nightmare.
Well, yeah, that's the kind of the best part of what we do. In a way, I mean, not 100%, but mostly we are liberated from dealing with a manufacturer. When I was dealing with Tuladil's manufacturing, um, there were so many compromises all
Yeah.
the way through from beginning to end. I wanted, and I've talked to you about this, I wanted the eye to be very similar in color and composition to two things. And I told them two things. I said, I want it to be like a My Little Pony's eye, and I'd sent them a graphic, and I want it to also be like a lava lamp.
Hmm.
That was way too out of left field for these people. They were like, no, that is impossible, you know. And it's funny because they a lot of times they did tell me how things were impossible, and oh no, you can't do that, you can't do that. They sent me a whole bunch of Tuladil's hand was like this, kind of with a curve,
Uh-huh.
and her fingers were apart because I wanted to, in theory, make gloves. Right?
Right,
Probably
right,
never,
right.
but I wanted to be able to do it if possible. And because I was working in vinyl, every single mold caught fire. And of course, that was something that they were like, "Well, we're gonna have to add that because, you know, we didn't know that the material that we've worked with for the last 20 years would catch fire in that size in a centrifugal casting machine." So,
Wow.
so they wrecked those arm molds, and so we had to redo that.
I remember
And
when you were going through all of that.
it's I don't know, it got a little bit lost in translation.
Hmm.
It never would have happened if it was in my hands from beginning to end, but
Right.
because you have to hand it off, and that's what's always scared me with your proprietary work. You were talking to Mel about how everybody ripped off Gene. It
Yeah.
was like there were no 16-inch dolls, and then there was 1,000
Yeah.
16-inch dolls on the
Yeah.
market. And when I look back at that kind of period of time, I saw all the dolls, like I think they were called L dolls, were
Uh-huh.
in Toys R
Yeah.
Us, and I hadn't even seen Gene till FAO Schwartz in
Mhm.
San Francisco. They had their big display, and it was right next to Chrissy or Sissy. It was right
Yeah.
next to Sissy and Madame Alexander. So I kind of grouped that all together without even thinking about
Right.
how much
Right.
shit had gone into that. I mean, how much had gone into that? How much effort had gone into that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, it's crazy.
it's scary.
Well, I think we have a little bit of an idea of what has inspired you on your journey, because we know that you're like the number one Care Bear fan in the whole entire world. But as a child, I know that your parents are so lovely, and
Mm.
I really love and respect them because I feel like they raised a human being that could 100% be their authentic self. And I mean, I feel like that should be every parent's goal, right? Is to
Yeah.
not direct them, but to harbor safety for them and to watch them grow and evolve on their own in what their interests are and whatnot. And I feel like you had that marvelous setup where you had two very loving parents that supported you in what you wanted to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
So as you were a young child growing up, what do you think? What's your like most best memory of doll? Like the first doll that you saw that you wanted, that you really connected with, and
Okay. Um, uh, I guess when I was really little, I have four older sisters, and I have two older brothers, and they kind of lumped everything on me. So I mean, most of my clothing and a lot of my toys were hand-me-down toys and things like that. So I had some of my favorites. I had a Holly Hobby, um, which is such a freako in terms of a doll sculpture, in terms of the
yes.
vinyl doll.
Yes.
When you when you pull her hair back, you're like, what were they thinking?
And those
She's
hands, those hands.
Yes,
I
she's a
love
scary alien. I had
them.
her, and I think that a lot of those, the fact that my dad was a painter, and he just kind of he had so many kids that he had to work all the time, and he had to give up doing what he cared so much about. And my grandfather was a famous fiddle player, and the same thing happened. He went from being this, roving Irish fiddler to having too many kids. He had so many kids. So he got bogged down and got away from his art. And I think that my dad was like really positive that he was not going to let me get away from my art. I
Yeah.
mean, I remember even anything that is around you obviously influences you, but my mom's work ethic with these Care Bears and just Care Bear, Care Bear, Care Bear, Care Bear. And it was like, do I get a Care Bear or what? Because it was like, I don't know, she's 15 Care Bears in before I got a Care Bear.
Right.
But at the same time, she
Because it was a
did
livelihood. Like she was making them to make money, right?
yeah, I did have I guess my earliest toys, definitely dinosaurs, everything Gremlins, everything My Little Pony.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gizmo.
My Little Pony was funny because we got My Little Ponies up the wazoo for my sister in the mail. So my sister kept getting these My Little Ponies, and it was like she had no interest. And they would send me things like like those like Bigfoot, the big trucks and all that. And me and my sister would just immediately swap.
Swap. I
Yeah,
love that. I
I
love
had
that.
no interest. And then the funny thing is I remember like my first ponies either were Seashell or Medley, right? And then my mom pulls out the pictures and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And she has this picture of me with bow tie. And it was like, no way bow tie was my first pony. I do not remember that bow tie, but there she is, and there's
Yeah.
no other ponies. And I was like, maybe that's why I'm so country. I don't know.
My first was Baby Ember. It was a mail order.
Oh,
And or no,
oh,
that's not true. Because
see?
I had Bubbles.
Okay,
I remember having Bubbles, and I think I did get Seashell because I really liked the sitting ponies, which they never did again.
yeah,
And I yeah, and then later, I think what I was thinking memory wise was Ember was my first baby because that was the first thing. I was at a neighbor's house and they had the mail order Ember, and I was like, what is that? And then I had to be on board, and my mom had to mail order for a baby Ember so I could have it. And then they actually released like the baby
yeah,
ponies, and then I was surprised, baby surprise all the way. I remember how badly I begged for that pony, how much work went into getting my mom to go to Toys R Us to purchase that pony. And
yeah.
I played with that baby surprise all over the neighborhood forever. I loved that or
Oh, okay. When
pony.
when the babies came out, I specifically remember just falling in love with the accessories, the crib. You assembled.
Oh yeah.
Not sure. No, you didn't assemble the crib, but it came apart very easily.
Yeah.
So I think that me and my sister got Moon Dancer and Morning Glory, which are just Glory. just glory. But they were almost identical, really. Mine was red,
They
hers was
are,
purple.
yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, don't touch my pony with that one. She actually cared about that one. I think she liked cotton candy as well, and I think maybe I liked minty at the time, but they were nothing compared to seashell. And
Right.
it was funny looking back. I watched the documentary on My Little Pony, and they were like, "Well, seashell was perceived as being disabled." I was like, "Shut up! No, she what? If that was you, that's on you."
Right.
Seashell and Bubbles were just kind of like the queens. Okay, somebody else had to carry them around. They didn't care.
I
They
just
didn't
thought they
need
were kind
a
of
father.
the sweeter ones because they
Yeah,
were kind of like more demure and they were sitting and they
yeah,
were, I was like,
dude.
"Aw."
They were so much more authentic to me. I remember talking to my mom, and I was like, "She's the best pony because she has a diamond on her forehead, and you can see none of the other ponies have a diamond." Um, it's like Majesty didn't have a diamond on her forehead. Come on,
Right.
that is crazy. I do remember I carried around like one of those lunch boxes with some My Little Ponies, kind of the first plastic gizmo that came out, and a couple Care Bears just about everywhere. And
Yeah.
Swiftheart was one that I did take with me everywhere because I don't know, there's something better about his skateboard than any of the other accessories. It
Right.
actually feels like a real accessory. It's like it can kind of hold this thing, but
Right.
yeah, no, most of them weren't as good as that.
So
Um,
what was it that really kind of engaged you into moving forward into designing your own characters?
um, by the time I would say by the time I was 10 years old, my walls were completely covered with my characters.
Hmm.
And I would talk to my mom about them. And I did when I was very, very little, maybe 4 years old. I did have an imaginary friend named Lucky who I would talk to. And I don't hear any kids, none of my nieces, none of my nephews, none of them have imaginary friends. And I'm like, how did you get by? Like, Lucky was always there. And I remember there was a point when mom and dad would ask me like, well, what does Lucky look like? And I was like, well, he wears a blue dress and he has a red and white stocking cap that he wears over his face. It's kind of like the character from Fat Albert, the way that he
Yeah,
had his
yeah.
hat over his face. And I had to make that. So mom's like, okay. And so we took my sister's clothes and we actually had a red and white stocking cap. And I remember his nose was a Care Bear heart nose, and his eyes were
Oh,
googly, right? So later, I made mom put those eyes and that nose on a Care Bear. So later, there's a Care Bear with those eyes on it. So my imaginary friend actually took a physical shape, and then later characters kind of came from that. Like I always thought there were things in the trees. I grew up with Labyrinth,
yeah,
and the Dark Crystal, and I was sure that those things were real
yeah.
most of my life. And if you look at Brian Froud's
I mean, they
original fairy,
are. I've got my
yeah,
Jen tattoo there. Yeah.
there you go. If you look at Brian Froud's first fairy book, he has got his dolls. They were dolls that he
Mhm.
had made of his goblins, and they're posed in the trees around him, and he's pretending that he doesn't see them. Shit, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, they're there, and they hide
Yeah,
when you are looking because they
yeah,
know you're looking,
yeah.
right? So I was pretty sure that all of that was real. And I still feel that there probably is something out there we don't know about. It just makes sense that there
Oh,
would be.
100%. It just makes sense. I mean,
And I mean, who doesn't think man, the first time I went to Chinatown, I was sure there was somebody with a gremlin. I was sure that, like, or something.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
Chinatown has all these like sculptures of like mythological creatures like unicorns, or Kirin and food dogs. And I just assumed that came from somewhere. It's not
right.
from nothing.
Yeah,
So
exactly, exactly.
yeah, so I guess that inspired me, and I've always been building on my characters because of that.
So what was your like very first besides the plush that you and your mom made of your imaginary friend, what was your
Mm.
very first like sculpture of a character like where you were like actually creating yourself a character?
I did a whole bunch of monsters. My mom had My we had just moved to California, and my mom had a thing at work where they wanted them to make an elaborate graveyard for a Halloween party. And I didn't want it to be, she asked me, and I didn't want it to be a whole bunch of like ghosts. So
Right.
I made as many things as I could think could fit in a graveyard. And I did these really long-legged, jagged monsters. And my dog, sorry. That noise in the background is always, it's Lily. So
Aw.
anyway, I did these long-legged monsters with big teeth, and my parents couldn't believe that that came out of me. Because I was really quiet, you know. What did turn into things like Gobi, very much where you have these like really chunky feet, big hands, and Gobi was kind of like what is the word? Like kind of pulling together your favorite ideas from things. I mean, a lot of people see Labyrinth and Gobi,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But there's also this hand is coral and pineapple, and it's really inspired by the salt creatures from the original Star Trek. You know, they would suck the salt out of your skin and kill you.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such a cool feature. So
Uh-huh. You're
it's
such a
kind of,
nerd, Ion.
I know I'm such a nerd. It's funny. Later, when I went to art school, like much later, there was this kid in my class, and he's like, "There's no such thing as an original idea anymore." And I thought, "Oh my God, f you." Original ideas are all around us. The
Yeah.
best example from the 80s I can think of is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They were like, how do we hit kids in the face 4 times over again, right? So
They
like
love
they're
turtles. They love
yes,
pizza. They're,
yes.
they love to
It was literally
party.
it was a focus group on what's going to get little boys involved, right? So they were
Right.
like pizza. Everybody loves ninjas. They were the worst ninjas. The turtles were terrible ninjas, really. And I don't know what little boy there. It was a gay boy. There was a gay boy in the group, and he was like, "What if they were all Renaissance masters?"
Right.
So they have these names because it was like, they're like, "Oh,
Raphael and
Splinter was
Michelangelo and Donatello.
why not name them after famous ninjas or famous pizzas? I don't know.
I don't
But
know, but they're still running merch today, so they did
yeah,
something right. That was fun.
comic for Jam not too long ago where they kind of redid the Gem characters in a
Yeah,
modern
it's
way
beautiful,
and like
man.
different body proportions,
Hmm.
um, even more specific to the character's background from the 80s than the original toys were.
Yeah.
And Shayna's struggles are really something that a black girl might struggle with.
Mhm.
They did such a good job modernizing the characters and bringing it back.
And they
And I
introduced
think,
a trans character, which was
yeah,
mind-blowing and amazing,
yeah,
and I was so happy because Jem was so evolved. I mean, what
mm-hmm,
the cartoon was speaking to kids about things that no other cartoon was speaking about.
yeah,
It was such a beautiful celebration of just being human, you know? And
yeah.
so it felt so right when they introduced the new trans character. I was just like, yes.
There were so many, I guess, missed opportunities in the 80s for a trans character. Like, I really, I thought Tech Rat would be the most non-binary character on the
Yeah.
planet. Like, looking back
Yeah.
at it, I'm like, this any non-binary person you've met today, you're like, oh yeah, it's almost like they knew about Tech Rat in advance. Um, even though he's a bad guy. Um, which I also think it would have been nice if the Misfits were as diverse as the holograms. I think people probably complain about that sometimes, but I don't know. It's so
So
good.
what drew you into the Blythe world and the Blythe community? Because I know that that's part of your early, you know,
Yeah. Yeah,
beginnings.
well, it's pretty simple. It's funny. I was really getting obsessed with large ball jointed dolls, and this was when there was no um, clear line to getting a large BJD from Japan to the United States. So you had to
Mhm.
use a shopping service,
Right.
and
And cross your
sometimes
fingers.
yeah, and cross your fingers. And we're talking months. I mean, I
Oh
think
yeah,
60 days or
I remember.
some, yeah, sometimes more. It could be up to a year, I think, with
Yeah.
ball joint cells because you had to deal with production and things like that too. So I got my first big BJD from Volks. It was Volks No No, and No No is one of these four sisters that is like, looking back at it, they're really sexy little girls. But they were cool. They were really cool. They were kind of anime, and it was
They
kind
were
of more
so
like
different. Yeah.
yeah, it was kind of like an anime witch. So to me, No No was like 300 years old and, slightly evil. And so it wasn't a little girl. But
Right.
that took forever to get here. And I remember the promo images for the Four Sisters and were they were photographed with this ugly little thing. There was this ugly little squat thing in the photo with them. And I was like, I hate that stupid thing. I wish they didn't put that in there. And then I look at the photos. I mean, like a month later, I was like, that thing is kind of cool. And I was like, what if I got one of those things? I bet they're not that expensive. So I was already waiting on another BJD, and I was like, can you get me one of these Blythe dolls? And my friend was with, I think it was Crescent Trading Company. And she's like, her name was Popeye. And Popeye, which I don't think is really her name, but anyway, so Popeye's like, I can get you one of those Blythe dolls. So she got me one, and it's packed in with the ball jointed doll. And I loved this silly thing. I loved it so much. It had so much hair. It was it felt very fantasy and very vintage too. I didn't
Right.
see at that point in my life, I hadn't seen um, Gina's photography or a Kenner Blythe.
Right.
So the first Blythe I was introduced to was Mondrian. And then later I freaked out when I saw them in FAO Schwartz.
Hmm.
FAO Schwartz got a very short run on them, and I remember going in with friends, art friends, not doll people, and they were like, "I can't believe someone would spend $60 on that doll. $60 at an FAO Schwartz is ridiculous." And it started to become a thing that every time I went by FAO Schwartz, I kept buying one of those ugly dolls, right? And every time I'd check out at FAO Schwartz, someone would say, "Well, the Jean doll is so pretty," and I was like, "Maybe I want this ugly doll. Don't be telling me I want this ugly little doll. I love this squidgy little thing." And it really inspired me. I started buying vintage clothes. I started looking into Blythe. I found out about Kenner Blythes, and I still thought, why do I want the junky one when I can have this new modern one with bendy
Uh-huh.
arms? And that started it. It wasn't until I got one. I think it was probably all gold in one, or Rouge Noir. It was one of those two that I had so many of that I was like, well, her face is scratched. What if I turn it into something else? I mean, this face is really great. It's a big open canvas.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, who is the number one doll that is, just the number one character that doesn't have doll representation? And so Miss Piggy, right? So I was like,
Yeah.
I have to make Miss Piggy. And I naturally went to polymer clay and was like, I'll just sculpt polymer clay over this face. Well, I didn't think that through. So I put the head in the oven on the lowest temperature. And I was like,
Oh
yeah,
no.
I was like, this is gonna work, guys.
Oh
Anyway,
no.
so it's
Excuse
horrible
me.
on multiple levels because the fire department was called because there's black smoke coming out of my
Oh my
house, and
gosh.
I was already in kind of a bad neighborhood in the Bay Area. So they were like, he's cooking meth or something. and, and then when the firefighters got there, I was like, I put a doll in the oven, and they're looking at me like, maybe we should call the police. He put a doll in the oven. And the head was really cool, looking back at it. It was really cool because it shrank back like a little Apple doll, and it turned into like a little wrinkly old Blythe. But of course, it smelled like poison and probably
Yeah.
took a couple years off my life.
Yeah.
So I pulled my sculpt off of it because the sculpt didn't change size. It was meant to be in there. And I was able to put that sculpt on another doll. And then my friend Catherine, she did makeup art and graphic art, but she was able to airbrush on that face, and I was able to sculpt the ears easy peasy. So I had a Miss Piggy all of a sudden. So that was the first one, and then um, I thought about how I would make this Blythe character into a boy, and then I thought how I would make it into something interesting that reflected me.
Hmm.
And it led to, I don't know, uh, maybe 100 custom Blythes. And
Wow.
it's funny because people would order customs from me, and I didn't even think at the time, hey, this doll is heavily involved in photography. You should photograph the dolls. Instead,
Yeah.
a lot of the only pictures I have were the pictures that I sent the person before I shipped the doll,
Right.
and a lot of people ordered rabbits from me, and I haven't seen those rabbits. So,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
so sad when,
yeah,
I have hundreds and hundreds of dolls out there and I rarely see people photographing them, and that is kind of sad because you want to like kind of see where
yeah.
they're at, what the what are they
What
doing,
happened?
you know?
Yeah, I'm like, did some of the chemicals I use seep out and hurt you in some way? I hope not.
Right,
Maybe they died.
right.
But you look back at it and you're like, well, I should have taken more photographs. Some Blythe people, I wouldn't call myself a Blythe customizer necessarily because I was always coming at it from I always treated Blythe like a canvas and like she was an actual piece of artwork. But I feel that way about Care Bears too, and I don't know if everyone does. When I look at the face sculpt of a Barbie, there's some of them that are actual masterpieces. And I don't think the people holding them, most people that have the dolls, don't realize that they're looking at a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Uh, Coming to mind, I think one of the best sculpts in the history of dolls is Francie's face. It is so sweet and serene and matches that period of time.
Hmm.
And if you don't see the artistry in that, I think you're missing a point.
Right.
If that was just any old thing, it would not have had the impact that it did. Not that
Yeah.
Francie's impact was like, the biggest of Barbie, but
Right.
yeah, yeah. So yes, that's what got me into Blythe. I saw it with a ball jointed doll. I still love Blythe, but I feel like there's so many customizers that I don't know how to put it. It's not that they're. I think that Blythe wants to go in one direction. I want to go in another one.
Yeah.
I like freaky monster scary Blythes, or I like stock Blythes.
I'm in
And
love with your Skeksis, Blythe.
uh,
I am like, I want one so bad, Ion. It is like my favorite thing in the whole freaking world.
what about a Labubu that is a Skeksis?
Oh, that's so cute. Oh my gosh.
I've been messing around with that. I want to get you one. I want to do something with that. I actually think I could improve the model so it didn't need Blythe's head underneath it at all. I think we could just do it from scratch, which I think would be really pretty.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I could do those extra Skeksis arms. Skeksis have another set of arms under there, like
Hmm.
an alien queen, and people don't know that. They're just like the Mystics. The Mystics had all these extra arms, and
Yeah,
people are like, well, the Skeksis didn't. I was like, yes, they did.
yeah,
They're embarrassed. They're kind of the way they are set up is kind of like in the place of breasts. So
yeah,
they have arm breasts.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you can use any of this. What is Ion talking about?
What are you talking about, Ion? No.
Skeksis arm breast. Yes. What is the interview? It's like 4 seconds, and Ion just talks about Skeksis vestigial arms.
Right, right.
But I hope that when I do occasionally see Blythe artists that are willing to really push the doll and go that far, and I did get to meet the Blythe sculptor Allison Katzman, and it was really funny because her aesthetic, it was about feminism. Blythe's
Huh.
head is bigger than her body. It
Yeah.
is valuing her body and her mind over, or her body over her. I'm saying it backwards.
Her mind
Her
over
head,
her body.
her
Yeah.
mind over her body. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that gigantic head is saying that, hey, girls, your head is important.
I'm
But it's
obsessed with that prototype Blythe head.
oh yeah,
That like weird, it doesn't
yeah, the
even look
squidgy
like the
one.
Blythe that
Yeah.
we have now. Like I'm so obsessed with it though. It's I've actually I've sculpted it like
Mm-hmm.
probably I don't know, a handful of times just for myself, like thinking like, oh, maybe I'll just like make myself one or something. And it's on my files on my computer of just like playing around with
Yeah.
it. And then I actually took one of the sculpts I was working on to be that, and that's what got manipulated into my Irma doll,
Oh, I
which
remember
was
Irma. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, okay, a lot of things like that I realized do carry with you because I actually did make a hippo Blythe and I loved it so much. And I wound up making a lot of hippo dolls later. And
Yeah.
I kind of saw Mudang and I was like, oh my God, this is the time I'm making a hippo. And she wound up being my main character kind of in my head as kind of a character hub. So I would see, all these things that we grew up with, especially the things we missed. I mean, I love pigs. I already loved pigs, and they didn't make the pig character. Come on, I'm going to make 200 pigs because you did that.
Exactly.
It's like
Exactly.
when you send your daughter to an all girls school and then you're shocked that she's bisexual.
Right.
She found
But a
something she
bump.
liked. Yeah, I grew up with semi-articulated figures and I liked how much articulation they had. I like functional articulation.
Yeah.
Like I want them to have something that really adds to that character, right? So you start with something like Care Bear Posable has standard articulation, or a Barbie has standard articulation. That doesn't always suit them, and it's neat that we have a made to move Barbie, but um, that's not quite what either one of us want. When
Right.
I think of women, I don't think of any of the made to move shapes necessarily
Yeah.
being quite correct. I mean, so I would say I started with this a real fondness of articulation, and then resin dolls. I love BJDs, and I love that you can see their joints. I love antique doll joints, and I try to incorporate more than 100-year-old joints into my work all the time because I want you to see it. I want that to be part of it because it's part of human history too. And later with Blythe, uh, there was a certain point that I didn't need Blythe to be underneath my sculpture. You know, it was like, why am I why am I not making my own eyes? Because
Right.
I was living with the constraint of what Blythe can and can't do. The screws in the back of her head, accommodating the eye mechanism. And when you make a custom doll, when you make an art doll with a Blythe, I did not consider it a Blythe unless that eye mechanism moves. You will
Yeah.
never find a doll from me with stationary eyes.
Yeah.
So that does bother me about customs. If you're just going to sculpt a new thing on it, it's a different thing, you know.
Yeah.
I was really tiny. Most of my life, I was tiny. I think maybe like a little early, maybe when I turned 12, I went from being this miniature child to 6'2", and doctors already told my parents. They were like, "He's gonna die. He's gonna die." He was born with Hirschspringer's, which is it's the same illness that killed Heather O'Rourke from Poltergeist.
Yeah.
So when she died, my parents were like, "Oh, give him whatever he wants because he's
Yeah.
probably gonna die." And I didn't. I still live with that. I think I'll always have Hirschspringer's. It's just, you know, you can Google it. I'm not going to talk about it. My Little Pony. I mean, like they mourned Dream Valley like 4 seconds, maybe. Okay, and I mean, Applejack is like, "Oh no!" and she falls in the water. Then the Sea Pony song, and then the dragon's there. Everybody's a dragon. Traumatizing. What is that? Oh,
This is my original childhood mail order
oh,
Apple Jacks. My
oh my
mom,
God!
when I was really little, my
Gorgeous.
mom, I think, worked for J.C. Penney's for a little while, and she would order everything through the Penney's catalog. And so I'd get a lot of my toys in white boxes. My lemon
Mm-hmm.
meringue from Strawberry Shortcake also came in a white box,
Oh,
but
that's so
yeah,
cool.
I don't know I don't know actually why Apple Jacks was sitting on this table, but they were. So when we were talking, I was like, "Oh, I've got to pull them out."
It's funny, like looking back at it, I recognize my childhood ponies when I see them, but I never had one that was in that good a shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty rough on them. And my Applejack, I think her apples faded to like an orange color. Like, they can be red, but they can almost be white now.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Um, and
Probably
I
depending
do,
on the paint they used for the screenings or whatever. So you basically starting out doing customizations with the Blythe parts.
yeah,
And then moving on from there to I don't need these parts. I now
yeah,
can like make my own creations and not
yeah.
rely on that.
It was funny too because I got that Volks doll in the mail, and I love the weight of it and the heft of it and the giant eyes. And I had also seen at the time, I remember some of my family said that Barbie was very ugly. And there was one feature of Barbie that I just loved, and
Were
it
they
was that
talking about Dusty?
no, they were talking about the first Barbie, like number one through, whatever, the ponytails. They were talking about how ugly she was, kind of. And there was a feature on the doll that I was really in love with, and it's the that beautiful almond eye shape. I love
Yeah.
it. So when I was working in college, my first year of college, I had to put together a CGI short film. And so, of course, I chose, Beautiful Life from Ace of Base as my music. And then I was going to have this Venus, that what I perceived as the most beautiful woman to ever exist. This Venus was going to turn around and it was going to focus on her face, right? And she was going to have a menagerie of friends. Like she had a friend that was a duck and a pig. I mean, it was one animal. It's kind of like a wuzzle. So it's a duck and a pig, but it also could fly, and it also had flowers growing out of its hair and out of its eyes. So it's like, okay. So if you look back at that first video I did in college, to it's a beautiful, but it's that riff that comes before she says that, right? That bah, bah, bah. So I'm doing that riff, and I make this character, and it's got a little bit of Japanese ball jointed doll. It's got a little bit of Barbie. It's got a lot of dark crystal in there. And that was kind of the first Lotus doll that I made. And that was the first Tula dill that I made was in that video. So they kind of grew from that. And then the forms that they take today were definitely influenced by Blythe.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people are going to look at Tula dill and be like, what? She was at one point a flying pig duck.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so she's come a long way. Just like the Lotus doll, I just kept. I mean, the older I got, the longer my limbs got. I always wanted a doll with those sanguine limbs like I have, so I kept thinking like longer and longer and longer. And when you're in art school, um, they will have you do these horrible assignments like self portraits. And if you really want to focus in as an artist on what your insecurities are, go ahead and do a self portrait. And then in the way that my teacher would do, Carol Nunnally, she would she would point out our flaws and say, "This is what you're insecure about." And she's like, "Well, Ion thinks he has a wicked witch nose, and Ion doesn't like his ears, and that's why they're bigger in this portrait." And also, there's something weird about how you grew up. And I was like, oh, I got really tall really fast. So I was a tiny baby and then I was a giant guy. I think people are surprised that I'm 6'2". I think I come across as smaller or something on the internet too. But anyway, I that had to be in my artwork. That had to be in my doll. So my representation of me and my proportions are reflected in that doll. You can't help but be in Mary. You are part of her. And we've talked about this when if 10 people took the description of Mary Magpie or any character, really, but if they took Mary's description and if 10 people sculpted and drew her, they would be totally different
Yeah.
dolls because
Yeah.
they're always going to, I don't know, I think maybe 30 or 40% of something is you.
Mhm.
I'm noticing actually when I finally got to meet you, I was like, okay, first of all, I always thought you had gorgeous eyes. You have
Aw,
gorgeous
thank
eyes.
you.
But when I met you, I was like, holy shit, this guy's arms. Your arms proportionally are you have like Popeye arms.
Uh-huh.
They're huge.
They don't
They're
come
huge.
through though unless you're in real life.
It's like this guy's arms. Holy shit. So no wonder you're a good sculptor. And it's funny too because now I've met
I'm a good
quite a
cuddler
number.
too.
Yeah, and look at this. Look, that is my wrist.
Yeah.
Like, not even a Care Bear wide. Um, so you look back at it, and I've met so many sculptors since then. I can see when I'm looking at people's hands, whether they are a sculptor or whether they do sculpture, and even people who sculpt digitally have certain traits in their arms and their features like that, which I think is so neat. I wish I had Popeye arms. I don't.
I actually miss sometimes. I've thought about doing some hand sculpting again. I miss that sometimes, but I do have to laugh because I actually have kept a lot of my old work, like literally from like when I was like 13, 14,
Yeah, yeah,
whatnot.
yeah,
And I was obsessed with, I don't remember how old I was when Titanic came out. Maybe I was a little older. I might have been like 17 when Titanic came out.
yeah.
But I was obsessed with the actress. I had followed her from way before Titanic, watched her in a lot of her art films and whatnot,
Yeah.
Kate Winslet. And
Okay. I was like Kathy Bates, me too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyways, and I remember seeing the commercial for Titanic, the trailer,
Mhm.
and being like, people finally realized that she's a mega movie star because because
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
followed her on all these like art and indie films that she was in originally
Yeah.
and stuff. And so I was like, yes, they finally recognize how amazing she is. But that was one of my first like sculptures that I remember really trying to sculpt a
Hmm.
realistic human being's
Hmm.
face.
Hmm.
And I still have it. It's and I sculpted it was like polymer and I have glass inset eyes in it or whatever. Near, far, wherever you are. And it's like I look at it now, I'm just like, oh, but I'm telling you, I put weeks and weeks and weeks of work just like
Hmm.
pulling it out, working on it,
Hmm.
working on it. And I remember at the time thinking it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life and
Yeah.
like how extraordinary it was. And now, I look at it and I'm like, yeah, we can keep you in the back on the shelf, like.
You and me are unique in that we are kind of that bridge generation that got to live our lives before cell phones and we
Yeah.
got to live before 3D printing and kind of came up.
We're literally the binding
Yeah.
of a book. We're
Yeah.
literally the binding of the two pages. We got to experience the old school growing
Hmm.
up and living, and then we're indoctrined into technology as it was growing. So, and I really feel blessed for that actually, because I feel like a lot of my morals, my hard work ethic, a lot of things like that came from that what some people would consider rougher,
Yeah.
times growing up, but I really treasure that because it really helped me grow as a human being.
Well,
I would have
I
been a
mean,
monster if I had TikTok as a teenager. Like, oh
yeah.
God, I couldn't imagine the things I would put out there.
I that's the thing. These kids have to live with this digital footprint forever. So when they're like, "Yeah, I'm never going to regret doing this," I did that. I regret doing it, but if I don't tell you, you don't know that I did
Yeah.
it.
So, what are we inspired by right now? What are we working on? What are we doing? What does your current collection look like of characters?
Right now, I've been hit in the face with uh French culture, and I never thought that I would be that way. I think France is cool, whatever, but it really impacted me like out of left field. So some of the dolls I've been working on, I want them to look like, I don't want to say mimes, but I do have some dolls that kind of do have some mimish quality, some
Yeah.
Harlequin qualities.
Yeah.
I've always had a thing about metallic colors, which is kind of unfortunate because some of that junk kind of 3D print spam that's out there, it uses metallics, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna take that back because when I think of metallic, I think of like what would a character look like if they were having a hallucination? So like this is coriander with a hallucination color scheme.
Oh, that's so beautiful, Ion. That's
You know,
gorgeous.
you've got one of the ball jointed dolls. These are hard to find. They're either with me or they don't exist. So you and I think Snoopy Girl has one. That's it. That's it. And Aaron has one, obviously. But yeah, and that doll is funny because that doll really pushed me. You know, I made that and I was like, I can do articulation the way that I think articulation should be, not necessarily anatomically correct, but anatomically fun.
Right.
So yeah, so that is,
I
she's got
love
very
it.
squidgy joints.
Excuse me. Let's see. I'll
Re-
have to hold her this way so we
Yeah,
can see
yeah.
her
Oh
better.
my God. Also, can we please start making things that are different body shapes? Oh my God. No more skinny
Yes.
dolls. So we are doing, and I say we like you and me and several other artists are we're doing an artist expo for Sacramento, California, because it desperately needs it. It really needs it. There's a lot of doll people in California, and I don't feel like, especially the northern side, I don't feel like they're organized artistically. So I'm just these are some of the dolls that are going to be at that expo.
Ah.
One of the this is a new guy for California is my little shark.
Oh, that's so
Yes, I
cute.
I do try to incorporate as many hearts in there as I can. So his little fins are actually hearts.
Adorable.
And he has a dump truck because I want everyone to have a great butt. Everyone.
Yes, yes.
And then for my exclusive workshop, we're going to be doing this little plush pendant, you know, like other things that are out there that are plush
That
and
are
blind
plush.
box.
Yeah.
We're going to do a honey pomelo,
Oh,
and
that's so cute. Well, I mean, let's be fair. Monchichi was doing that in our
oh,
childhood,
I know,
so
don't even get me started. People are like, no one has ever thought of this before, and I was like, where the wild things are. Here's a here's a little mock turtle for that show.
oh, I love it.
And this one I was like, what articulation does a mock turtle need? And the answer is a lot. And it's
Mhm.
he does have a butt, but it's kind of hard to see.
Yeah.
It's hard to have a turtle shell and a butt.
Hi,
Also, here's my
Lily.
dog.
Yeah.
Here's Grover. Grover's coming to the show. And we're gonna have some centerpieces that are gonna get auctioned off at the end. And hopefully we can do this either every year or every other year. And that way I can also go to Casey's wonderful show, which was definitely the inspiration for this. Because as you know, doll artists are like just right here on the edge of not being able to do anything. So if you
Yeah.
can do something to have something local, that is the best.
I think
Yeah.
the thing too that, and it's one thing that I really want to stress on my channel and talking to people is that, people have this idea of what a doll is through
Oh,
plastic produced stuff,
yeah.
or maybe, the ideas of antique
I
porcelain
oh
dolls.
my God, I could just have a conversation on this one thing because what is a doll to you and what is a doll to me? I bet those are even different.
Right.
You
And
know?
and and
Yeah.
so I feel like so many people, when I want to go to a doll show, like to an art doll show, I
Hmm.
want to see artists that are
Hmm.
creating original things. I don't I don't mind, seeing Blythe, that stuff and whatnot. But usually what happens when I go to shows like that is I don't really see any artists. What I see is a bunch of Pop Mart merch, which
Hmm.
also I don't have a problem with. But if we're going to a show that's for BJD, and doll
Yeah.
artists, I want to
Yeah.
really see the artistry in that and not
Mhm.
something that I could pop on Amazon and purchase.
Yeah, I think that there is I think it's almost a revolution. You know, you've called it indie dolls before. I think there's a revolution in that we have suffered through this dealing with manufacturers not getting it right, not getting our point across in the character, and we can do it ourselves now.
Mhm, mhm.
And I don't think you and me might be some of the first people to do it, but as far as they can push it, we're not anywhere near that. You
Right.
can push 3D printing much further than we are right now. And
Yeah.
people people, especially in our doll community, they will say, I just got that really rare doll. Well, how much was she? $2,000, but they only made 4,000 of her and they're
Uh-huh.
sold out. I'm like,
Right.
okay, so great. you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And then they get the doll. There was one that comes to mind. I'm not going to say who made it, but there was one that comes to mind that had a very specific hairstyle, and it was supposed to all have that specific hairstyle, and every single one of those was different. And while that is fabulous from an artistic perspective, when you are buying a mass-produced doll, you would expect a certain level of consistency.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't have, yeah, I can't, even as much as you do, you can do, like when you were doing the Tula deals with me, I think we did like 10 or something. It wasn't
Mhm.
very many.
No.
Even if when I was looking at them, I could see kind of an ups and downs between them, not better or worse, but like this Tula deal looks happier and this one looks sad.
Right. There's
You know,
character because they're hand
yes,
painted. Yeah.
yes, and
Yeah.
part of being a doll for me is that I felt the connection to it. The way that my Share Bear faded, she faded quick and she shaded different colors of pinks and purples. That is my Share Bear, and I would recognize it a million miles away, 100 years from now when I am dust. I would know that was my Share Bear. I think that is what attaches us and what brings us into a character. When I did Coriander, I just wanted her to be the hippo that would be the best hippo in the world.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. I didn't want I didn't want Barbie as a hippo. You know, they
Yeah.
did make that though, and it is pretty
I
cool.
know, beautiful
Okay.
creatures.
I would think that beautiful creatures should be part of every one of your episodes. Somehow you should work them in
I
there
know.
because
They're hideous. No,
what is
I'm
her
just
name? Is her name like Giddy Up? Is the horse's
Yeah,
name Giddy
Miss
Up?
Giddy
That's
Up. Uh-huh.
horrible.
I
Can you
know.
hey,
I
hey,
know.
Giddy Up, how are you today? Just like it doesn't roll off the tongue. With the troll community, there was a point when this troll brand, it was called Swan, right? These Swan trolls became really popular, and I was like, why? Like there's 1 billion of these trolls, and I'm kind of sitting around with hundreds of them, and I was like, why don't I just put one up? Because I would get them in lots and I would get
Yeah.
them at flea markets and everything, 50 cents. And it was like $200. And I mean, what are you think? Like, I'm sorry, it's very common. They did make 1 trillion of these
Yeah.
trolls.
Yeah.
They are not rare. But yeah, same, same.
That's a thing, that's interesting because that brings me to a point as an artist, and I'm sure for you too. There's nothing more hard to live with when you are putting yourself into these creations and they're original creations. You are designing the character, you are sculpting the character from scratch.
Yeah,
You are
yeah,
putting it together in person. You are hand painting. You are
yeah,
hand clothing, whatever. And you're presenting this and you have it out there and it gets like 10 likes and somebody can have a picture of a Rust troll or a Malibu Barbie that they made a billion
mm-hmm,
of that have a
mm-hmm,
99-cent sticker at the thrift store and they'll go, look what I found. And they'll have 500 likes and comments on that. And it is
yeah,
something that, you just have to move through as an artist. But it's so unfortunate that people
yeah,
don't take
yeah.
the
It's
time,
it's
even if
kind of,
it's something that they don't
yeah,
maybe connect with or something, to
mm-hmm,
recognize and realize that somebody has put more work than they'll ever realize went into something, and
yeah,
to comment, folks, be kind. These
yeah.
people, if you can comment on finding Apple Jacks at the thrift store, then you can comment and say, wow, this new original design of yours is really beautiful. Thank you for bringing that into the universe.
Yeah,
Like,
last year I had probably the biggest renaissance of my artistic life. I think I made maybe maybe realistically right now about 80 designs for dolls, right?
it was insane, Ion. I was
And
like, oh, wow, you really ran with it, didn't
it was
you?
there was I felt like there was a backlog in my process. So I would get to a certain point in the sculpture, And I would be like, I don't know what to do right here. And then I would set down that project and I would move to another project. But now that the process in my head can go from A to Z, I can make all these things. And you're absolutely right. Some of the comments I will get are so ridiculous. I will say, well, I just finished doing, these creatures. These are the creatures in my group. And someone will say, I don't see an aardvark. Where is the aardvark? And I'll say, okay. um, I haven't made an aardvark yet. Will you call me when you make an aardvark? You know, okay. And
Yeah.
it is the same thing with mass produced dolls. People will say to me, well, that's not a number five ponytail. So I would pay $100 for or $250 for a number five ponytail. But I don't know. This is just a little resin doll that, what?
Yeah.
What? How many
Yeah.
ponytails are out there? How
Yeah.
many are out there?
Yeah.
How many people
Oh,
have the
even
exact
number
same
one
doll?
Barbies go on eBay
Yeah,
at any given time and they're on there. How rare are they? You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's really crazy how people think and connect with that stuff. And I guess
Mhm,
I, I loved trolls growing up, as you did, and
mhm.
really connected with them. But I feel like, in the when I started doing the Troglins, in the first year in the first year, I released 63 sculpts. It's like that. Come on,
Yeah,
and this
yeah,
was, and such an expansive for one person, collection, and nobody. I felt like the troll community was kind of just like, oh, anyways, these Russ Hallmark graduation trolls we found at the thrift store. I'm like, what? It's
yeah.
it's
Yeah, and
mind-boggling.
it's funny too because I've done a few lectures on trolls, and um, people will have a rust troll and they will say, I do have a really rare collection of trolls, and when they whip out a rust troll, I think
I
it
want
it
to cry.
girl,
It's
I'm
like
okay.
someone saying they have a huge vintage collection of Barbies and it's all 90s, like, and
Yeah,
you're like, no.
yeah, okay. So I'm probably post-apocalyptic in my view, because I don't think people are smart enough to sustain themselves. So if there's people in my stories, there's something different about them. They're like semi-immortal or something like that. And then my main characters, I was never a fan of the bridge character like Megan in My Little Pony. I do think the My Little Ponies can sustain themselves. I do think the Care Bears didn't need the children to go teach
Mhm.
lessons to. I think
What
the
about
Care Bears needed.
Nicholas? Care
Oh
Bears
well,
needed Nicholas.
Care Bears need that witch back. They need that witch back.
Yes, yes.
Um, no, but they're not your friends, Nicholas. Oh my God. Oh, so good. I love that. I do love
That was
that.
my first experience with a drag queen.
Oh,
Oh, I was like,
what?
yes.
What? Oh my God. But my universe, the my main character turned out to be Coriander because she is a potion person. Everybody comes to Coriander. So the way I'd like my story to go moving forward is I want people to come and meet Coriander and they tell their stories and so forth, so forth, so forth. Also, I have all my birds dead. Why are all the birds dead? That's what I'm exploring right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Which it was funny too because a lady told me just the other day, she was like, well, you should make a bird doll. And I'm like, I can't talk about the birds.
No, we haven't seen a real life bird in a long time.
No, the birds are dead. Or
The
and
birds are
maybe for
dead.
good reason. Or maybe they're right there and you just don't know. So I feel like I really when Jim Henson took us in and we met the podlings, I really loved that. And the people, I haven't made very many friends in my whole life. The friends that I have mostly are on Facebook or the internet and are in my house.
Mhm.
Other than that, I've dealt with a lot of bullying, which I think all people deal with a lot of bullying. But these friends that I have met, what I like to know about them and what I like to learn about them is these things that they do and these things that make their lives special. The reason I go by Grenadine Supreme is because I made so many bundt cakes with my mom. And when she got to this black cherry bundt cake, it was the best cake. There wasn't another better cake than this black cherry grenadine cake. And so that was the grenadine supreme cake.
Oh, I love
Every
that.
every Midwestern woman has a cake like that, right? They've got like a marshmallow pie or a tic tac pie, something like that. My mom is her grenadine supreme cake. So for me to be just half as good as the grenadine supreme would be perfect.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I love that story, Ion.
Also,
That's
people are
great.
like, I can't spell grenadine, it's too hard.
What?
Oh, they do. Every one of my characters have a
We're just
favorite.
making a birthday cake
Yeah.
bear. We're,
What? Why did they like this? Why would they do this? Why would they be friends with this person? Why wouldn't they like this person? And that also leaves me with a lot of characters and water. And I think in a story, I think that our environment is so critical because we would just not be here without water, right?
yeah.
We're water people, and we don't think of ourselves that way. Anyway, that's me rambling. Anything else we should
Well, it's
talk
good. It's
about?
a little insight to your, your thinking on and your process on your creations and designs.
I want almost every character that I make, I want them to be able to swim in the ocean or walk in the desert. That's why something like a rhinoceros or a hippopotamus really makes sense to me, like
Mm-hmm.
a camel or a giraffe. When cats have survived everything, they can survive anything. And I do have a character, and she initially people are like it's a giraffe, but she's actually a giraffe and a Sphinx cat. Her
Oh,
dad was a
cool.
Sphinx cat, and I mean, I grew up with a lot of couples that are very mismatched,
Yeah.
and that feels so right to me,
Right. Yeah.
you know. And I don't know if you remember, the Muppet Christmas Carol had, I think it was the Muppet Christmas Carol, had Miss Piggy and Kermit's offspring, and there's a pink frog and
Mm-hmm.
a green pig.
Mm-hmm.
That is the best thing that they did with them. I was like, thank goodness. The story progresses. They're gone now. They don't
Yeah.
exist
Yeah, they
canonically,
don't exist.
but oh, I love them.
No, I
So
love that too. I mean, we were just rewatching I don't give I would never give the Harry Potter industry any of my money at this point in time, but we
yeah.
were rewatching the movies in order on streaming that we have. And
Mhm.
one thing that I really loved was, it showed God, I don't remember what her name is, but Hagrid's love kind of has a love interest,
Oh
and
yeah,
she's a
she's a
very
giantess.
large
Yeah,
woman,
yeah,
and Hagrid's a large man for, normal people around.
yeah,
Hagrid would be
yeah,
a large man, but this woman was larger, and there was this automatic like, ooh, we like each other and we're flirting and whatever, but that couple makes sense to me. You know what I mean? Like the
yeah,
oddball couple makes sense. The whole Ken and Barbie thing, I'm like, would they in real life like have the longevity and be together? I don't
yeah,
know. But to me, no. Again, in the Harry Potter universe, we started watching the Fantastical Beasts
hmm,
movies right afterwards, and you have this character Queenie, who's this gorgeous knockout blonde, and she's head over heels for this adorable bear,
yeah,
baker
yeah,
guy. And that
yeah,
makes sense to me. I'm like, yes, like
yeah.
I feel like that's real and that makes sense.
Dude, there is not a couple. I mean, especially with straight people, that I can't see in the movie Shrek. I feel like that was so effective in Shrek the
Yeah.
dragon and the donkey.
Yes. Perfect.
Perfect, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those two are together. I totally agree. I think that especially with Barbie, I think that just knowing what Barbie is capable of,
Mhm.
right? We have an archetype. We know what Barbie does. She does everything,
Everything.
right?
Yeah.
She goes everywhere. She does everything. She's a busybody. Ken is not.
Mhm.
This is not Ken. And when I look at Dolly Parton and her husband that just passed away recently, Dolly Parton's husband had no interest in fame at all.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
a farmer. He did that his whole life. He was
Yeah.
completely happy. He didn't want to be photographed. He didn't want to go to movie
Yeah.
premieres. He didn't want any of that. He wanted her to shine.
Yeah.
And that makes more sense in every way than Barbie and Ken.
Yeah.
And when they did when they did the Barbie movie, I think they had to go there with it,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
because I mean, even in the Barbie movie, I know he's not gay, but damn, he is
Yeah.
a gay archetype. He
Yeah.
and because we grew up, especially our generation grew up with pretty much every queer-coded character was a villain. Jafar.
Or not only queer coded and a
Yeah,
villain, but dolls.
yeah,
Dolls. We have doll makers, like even in movies as recent as Insidious, it's like
hmm
the demon is up there and has all the weird dolls and
yeah,
everything. So they
yeah.
must be a villain and a bad person and
Yeah,
yeah.
that is a real thing. We are real, all of us, and to flesh out those characters and to just say, well, this guy's feminine, so he's bad, or this guy's nose is
Mhm.
bigger, so he's bad. And there's not a person on the planet who prefers. There probably is.
Yeah.
There's not
And
a
the thing I
person.
think too is
We,
what we grew up with, like with all the different things from cartoons to Jim Henson to whatnot. We had adults incorporated as those characters, as those
yeah,
lovable characters. Whereas I feel today they really try to segregate the adults from the children, and it's all just based on the same age
yeah,
characters, the same, whatever. And that's not real life. That's not when those children graduate, whatever, when they move from the home and have to
yeah,
face the real world, they're going to be dealing with all these types of
yeah.
people that they didn't experience on television,
No,
watching their little shows and everything. And so I really appreciate, that's one thing I really appreciate about the 80s and 90s is that we had a lot of uh, good, not just villains, but good adult characters that were
yeah,
there to help mold
yeah,
the children, to help keep,
yeah.
and I feel like we kind of have lost that a little bit.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. If you go back and look at the Get Along Gang, which was kind of based on the Little Rascals, right?
yeah,
The Get Along Gang, they went to the soda shop and there was an old goat that worked there, and he always got all the sodas for everybody. But
yeah,
he was their connective tissue,
yeah,
right? They're all friends with each other, fine, but they knew that they could rely on him. If there
right,
was a problem, they could go to him.
right,
And you're right. In newer shows, I don't want to say I think maybe Generation 2 My Little Pony was the peak worst of it.
yeah,
Like it was like seven little girls trying to make a cake, but they did not know how to make it.
yeah,
That was My Little Pony Generation 2, maybe 2.5. Anyway, they
yeah,
where's your adult? Where's your
yeah,
grandmother character?
yeah.
When they finally did My
Friendship
Little Pony,
Friendship is Magic, I will
yes,
say,
fixed it.
was
Yes.
incredible.
Yes.
Incredible. They hit
Oh my
all the
God.
marks. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. When Twilight Sparkle had a nervous breakdown, and
If I had kids, if I had kids, that would be the show I would be pushing. That would have been
yeah,
like, this
yeah.
is what you guys need to watch.
Yeah, I know right now that if I was to sit down with kids, I would want them to see Fraggle Rock.
Yeah.
There were all kinds of family dynamics in Fraggle Rock
Yeah.
everywhere. The uncle left. There was some point when Gobo's mother told him to get out of the house and he just never went home again.
Yeah.
But it was a good thing. He went out for ice cream and he never came home. That's actually in the song.
Yeah.
It's like bring back pink ice cream. He never brought it back.
Yeah.
Gobo was like, I'm gonna
Right.
grow up here. But you did see those, even things like the Smurfs were really dealing with a large family dynamic.
Yeah.
Also, in terms of queer representation, I would say the Smurfs are like actually really good, even though they get no credit for it.
Yeah.
But Smurfette was created for the series as a marketing tool for girls to
Right.
bring more women into the series, but really it was an all-male society that worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of interesting.
It is kind of interesting, isn't it?
I hope that if you do meet me, that I can help you in some way. I want everyone to make more art. I want more art, more dolls, more toys out
Yes.
there. And I would like to remind people that our story is not over. We're going to make a whole bunch of new things all the time. And you're going to make those new things. And they're going to be wonderful. They're not even there yet because you haven't made them yet. I love meeting people. I love talking to people. And I hope that there are more doll collectors and artists that take this seriously. And I with the expo, I hope that I hope it brings in a new group of people because
Me
I see what
too.
they're. Joey, have you looked at the Monster High people? Because they are just printing the doll shoes like it is not a big deal.
I know.
They're like, oh, I made her 10 sets of shoes because I lost the originals.
Yeah.
And I mean, can you imagine that if we had that when we were little?
Oh, I know. It's
Holy,
insanity. Lego pieces? Oh my
I know.
God.
I
Yeah.
know. All the replacements, so many replacements. I do get that a lot too. People they will go my doll lost its hand. Can you 3D print me a hand? And I'm like, probably. I don't
Yeah.
know if I'm the best way for you to get that, but
Right, right.
you
Yeah.
know, if you'd like to spend a lot of money on getting a hand, that's
On
going
the
to take me
sculpt.
six
Yeah,
years.
exactly.
Yeah,
You'll have to pay me for my time for the sculpt, but yeah.
that's another thing. I hope that people know that work is never wasted.
Yeah.
Everything that you do is moving you in a direction. All
Yeah.
of my art has been moving me in a direction. Blythe, this wonderful, wonderful canvas for me can be just the doll that she is, or she can be something else.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that you just keep moving and moving in your direction. And even though I do see a lot of Jim Henson in me, I don't want to be Jim Henson.
Right. Right.
And I don't want people to be afraid of sexuality. I think that we are going in a very conservative direction, but I would remind people that everything is a pendulum and it swings
Yeah.
back. So
Yeah.
even if you think you're in a bad place right now, and I have been there, okay, it will swing back and it
Yeah.
will get better.
Yeah.
Yeah.